Even the calmest cruise can turn dangerous in minutes. Storms, rogue waves, and emergencies that stop a voyage cold. As a former cruise captain, I've seen trips flip from smooth sailing to crisis mode in an instant. But here's the twist. Not all surprises are bad. Some, like seeing the northern lights at sea, are unforgettable. Stick with me, and I'll reveal 9 hidden dangers every captain prepares for, plus one magical moment you'll never forget. By the end of this video, you'll know 9 hidden dangers that can change your cruise in an instant, and how to handle them like a pro. From dodging hurricanes to understanding man-overboard drills, and even spotting rare natural wonders, you'll get the insider knowledge most captains keep to themselves. This is your guide to staying safe, prepared, and ready for the ocean's best surprises. One of the biggest misconceptions passengers have is thinking the weather at sea is predictable. You look outside, see calm blue skies, and assume it'll stay that way all day. But in reality, conditions can shift in as little as 20 to 30 minutes, especially in tropical or polar regions. As captain, I've watched glass-smooth water turn into choppy whitecaps faster than guests could finish their lunch. It's not just about getting a little wet. Sudden weather changes can cause the ship to sway more than expected, leading to seasickness, spills in dining areas, and even injuries from falls. Strong winds can close outdoor decks, cancel shows, or force the captain to slow down, sometimes making the ship late to its next port. On smaller vessels, a fast-moving squall can be enough to reroute the itinerary entirely. Most passengers don't realize the crew is constantly monitoring radar, satellite data, and real-time reports from other ships to stay ahead of these shifts. But even with all that technology, the sea has the final say. That's why when the captain announces a slight change of plans, it's rarely because we want to, it's because we have to. The fix is simple. Prepare like the weather will change, because it probably will. Keep a light jacket or poncho handy, choose non-slip shoes for outdoor decks, and secure personal items in your cabin. And when you hear an announcement about changing conditions, take it seriously. It's not for dramatic effect, it's for your safety. And if you think that's unpredictable, wait until you hear about the times we've had to sail right on the edge of a hurricane. Cruise lines plan their routes months, sometimes years in advance. But the ocean doesn't care about schedules. In hurricane season, especially in the Caribbean and Atlantic, there's always the chance that a storm forms along your path. As captain, I've had to make tough calls. Do we reroute hundreds of miles or skirt the edge of a storm to keep the itinerary? Sometimes the only safe choice still means sailing near hurricane territory. Now, no responsible captain will ever steer directly into a hurricane. That's suicide. But near in ocean terms can still mean encountering heavy swells, high winds, and rain squalls that shake the ship. Even when you're 200 miles away from the storm center, the waves it generates can be enough to rock you for hours. The result? Seasickness spikes, outdoor events get canceled, and delicate schedules, like port excursions, are thrown into chaos. Passengers sometimes panic when they see the ship's course on a weather app, thinking we're heading straight for it. The truth is, storms move and expand unpredictably, and from the bridge, we're tracking them 24/7. We adjust speed, angle, and timing to minimize the worst impacts, sometimes arriving early or late at ports to dodge the worst. The fix for passengers? First, know your season. Hurricane season runs June to November, peaking in September. If you book during that window, expect possible changes. Second, trust the crew's judgment. We'd much rather have you annoyed about missing a beach day than risking your safety. And third, bring seasickness remedies even if you've never needed them. The ocean can surprise you, but even without a named storm, there's a kind of wave out there that can appear without warning, and it's far more dangerous than it sounds. If you've never heard of rogue waves, picture this: a wall of water the height of a 10-story building, rising from nowhere in otherwise normal seas. These aren't just exaggerated sailors' tales. They're very real, and modern science has proven they happen more often than anyone expected. I've stood on the bridge watching calm, rolling swells suddenly give way to one massive, towering wave that seemed to appear out of thin air. Rogue waves are especially dangerous because they defy typical wave patterns. Most ocean waves combine predictably, but a rogue wave happens when several swells align perfectly, stacking into a single monster. They can hit from an unexpected direction, slam into the ship's side, and drench upper decks without warning. For passengers, that can mean flooded balconies, broken glass in public areas, or, if you're unlucky enough to be in the wrong place, being knocked off your feet. The good news? Modern cruise ships are built to handle extreme conditions. The bridge crew constantly monitors radar and horizon visuals, and while you can't outrun a rogue wave, you can sometimes adjust the ship's heading to meet it head-on, which is far safer than taking it broadside. For you as a passenger, the fix is simple. During rough or unpredictable weather, stick to indoor spaces or sheltered decks. Avoid leaning over railings and keep an eye on posted warnings from the crew. Rogue waves are rare, but sudden swells, smaller cousins of rogue waves, happen far more often, and they can still send you tumbling if you're not ready. And while waves like these can be terrifying, the next danger isn't from the sea at all. It comes from something every captain dreads hearing over the radio: man overboard. Few phrases send a chill through a captain's spine like hearing "man overboard" over the radio. It's one of the most urgent emergencies at sea because every second counts. The moment someone goes into the water, whether by accident, recklessness, or worse, the clock starts ticking. In cold seas, hypothermia can set in within minutes. Even in warm waters, currents and waves can carry a person out of sight shockingly fast. Most passengers assume falling overboard is nearly impossible, but it happens more often than you might think. Sometimes it's a result of unsafe behavior, climbing railings for a selfie, leaning too far over a balcony, or even roughhousing after a night of heavy drinking. Other times it's completely accidental, a slip on a wet deck, or being caught off balance during a sudden swell. When it happens, the entire ship springs into action. The bridge immediately marks the GPS location, the crew deploys life rings, and the ship begins a Williamson turn, a sharp maneuver designed to bring the vessel back along its path. All other priorities vanish until the search is complete. This can mean hours of circling, scanning with spotlights and binoculars, often joined by nearby ships and Coast Guard units. The fix is straightforward. Always respect railings, never climb or sit on them, and be extra cautious at night or after drinking. If you see someone acting dangerously near an edge, alert the crew. You might be preventing a tragedy. And while man overboard is a captain's worst call, there's another onboard announcement that's just as dreaded, and it doesn't involve the ocean at all. It's what happens when illness sweeps through a ship. On land, if someone catches a stomach bug, they can stay home and rest. At sea, when thousands of people share dining rooms, restrooms, and handrails, that same bug can sweep through a ship like wildfire. Norovirus is the most infamous culprit, but it's far from the only one. Respiratory infections, flu, and even foodborne illnesses can make their rounds in record time. I've been on cruises where a single sick passenger boarding at the start of the trip led to dozens of cases within 48 hours. Why? Ships are self-contained environments. Even with constant cleaning, the sheer number of shared surfaces makes transmission easy. Buffets are high-risk zones. A single contaminated serving spoon can spread germs to dozens of guests in minutes. When an outbreak happens, the captain has to make immediate, visible changes. Increase sanitation protocols, temporary closures of self-service stations, mandatory hand washing before entering dining areas, and sometimes quarantine for affected passengers. In severe cases, ports may even deny entry to the ship, forcing an early return or a change in itinerary. The fix for passengers? Be almost obsessive about hygiene. Wash your hands often, especially before eating. Avoid touching your face. Use serving utensils instead of your hands, and consider skipping high-contact snacks in crowded areas during peak times. And if you do get sick, report it immediately. Not to ruin your trip, but to protect others and ensure you get proper care. Of course, not all threats are invisible. Some you can spot from miles away, like what happens when a cruise ship and another vessel, or something lurking beneath the surface, cross paths. Most passengers imagine the ocean as a wide-open expanse with nothing for miles. But in reality, it can be surprisingly crowded. Fishing boats, cargo ships, ferries, and even drifting debris share the same waters as your cruise liner. And while radar and navigation systems make collisions rare, they're not impossible. I've been on the bridge during tense moments when a fishing trawler, oblivious to our path, cut directly in front of us. Even with the best technology, the ocean still hides threats. Logs, shipping containers that have fallen overboard, and large ice chunks can float just below the surface, invisible until the last second. Striking something solid at sea, even at a reduced speed, can cause damage to the hull, propellers, or steering systems. That can lead to delays, costly repairs, or in extreme cases, an emergency stop far from shore. When ships do collide with smaller vessels, the aftermath can be chaotic. Emergency response crews are launched, maritime authorities are notified, and depending on the severity, passengers may be restricted to certain decks or even confined indoors while rescue operations are underway. These incidents rarely make headlines unless they're catastrophic, but they're taken incredibly seriously by the captain and crew. As a passenger, the fix is mostly about awareness and patience. If you see the ship slowing unexpectedly or changing course sharply, it's not incompetence. It's often because the crew is avoiding a hazard you can't see from where you stand. And if you hear an announcement about minor technical checks after a strange shudder or bump, that's the captain's way of saying, "We just dodged something, and we're making sure everything's fine." And speaking of sudden stops, there's a kind of incident at sea that can halt everything in total silence, and it has nothing to do with obstacles in the water. If you're finding these insights useful, give this video a like and hit subscribe. That way, you'll know exactly how to handle any surprise the ocean throws at you. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for the final points. One of them is a danger I actually love dealing with as a captain. Imagine it's late evening. You're sitting in a lounge, drink in hand, when suddenly, total blackout. The music stops, the lights go out, the air conditioning shuts down, and the low hum of the engines vanishes into eerie silence. On a modern cruise ship, that silence is deafening because it means one thing: the power's gone. Engine or power failures can happen for a variety of reasons: mechanical breakdowns, fuel issues, electrical faults, or even damage from earlier incidents. While ships have backup generators, they can't run everything. That means essential systems like navigation, communications, and emergency lighting take priority, while non-essential comforts, pools, shows, bars, are put on hold. Depending on the cause, repairs can take hours or even days, leaving the ship stranded until assistance arrives. During my career, I saw passengers' moods shift quickly in these situations. At first, there's curiosity and a bit of nervous laughter. But as the air grows warmer without climate control, elevators stay shut down, and toilets stop flushing, discomfort sets in fast. If the failure is prolonged, food service changes to conserve resources, and medical teams keep a closer watch on vulnerable guests. The fix? Pack a small flashlight in your luggage, keep a refillable water bottle handy, and store a few snacks in your cabin. That way, you'll be more comfortable during any unexpected downtime. And here's a little-known tip. Crew members sometimes get updates before announcements are made. So if you've built friendly rapport with staff, they might give you a quiet heads up on what's happening. But while losing power feels unsettling, there's another situation at sea that's even more urgent. One where time is measured not in hours but in minutes. Most passengers don't think about it, but once you're hundreds of miles from shore, you're far from any hospital. Cruise ships have medical facilities, but they're designed for urgent care, not major surgery. So when a passenger or crew member has a life-threatening emergency, like a heart attack, severe injury, or complicated illness, the only option is an emergency evacuation. As captain, I've coordinated medevacs in calm seas and in stormy weather, and neither is simple. Sometimes a Coast Guard helicopter hovers over the deck, lowering a medic before hoisting the patient up in a harness. Other times, a high-speed rescue boat pulls alongside in heavy swells, timing its approach with the rise and fall of the waves to safely transfer someone. Every minute counts, and the logistics are intense. Securing the deck, stabilizing the patient, and keeping other passengers safely out of restricted areas. These operations often mean diverting the ship or missing a scheduled port, which can cause frustration among guests who don't realize the seriousness of the situation. But make no mistake, when someone's life is on the line, every other priority disappears. The fix for passengers is twofold. First, always travel with comprehensive insurance that covers emergency evacuation. Without it, the cost can reach tens of thousands of dollars. Second, be honest on your pre-cruise medical forms. Hiding a condition might feel like it protects your trip plans, but in reality, it can put you and the crew in a dangerous position. And now for our final point, we're leaving the dangers behind and ending on a high note. Because sometimes the same forces that create risk at sea also deliver the most unforgettable rewards. For all the dangers and challenges of life at sea, there are moments so breathtaking they remind you why people fall in love with cruising in the first place. One of the most magical? Witnessing the northern lights from the deck of a ship. I've seen passengers and crew stand in absolute silence, eyes wide, as the sky ripples in green, purple, and gold like it's alive. It's a rare treat because seeing the aurora requires a perfect combination of factors. You need to be far enough north or south for the southern lights, have a clear, dark sky, minimal light pollution, and be sailing in a region with geomagnetic activity. For cruise ships, this usually means certain routes in Alaska, Iceland, Norway, or the Arctic Circle during late autumn to early spring. From the bridge, we'd sometimes get alerts from our navigation systems or even tips from fishing vessels and cargo ships in the area that the lights were visible. When conditions were perfect, I loved making the late-night announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can bundle up and head to the open decks, you might just see something unforgettable tonight. The looks on passengers' faces, pure wonder, was worth every icy breeze and lost hour of sleep. The fix for catching this spectacle is all about planning and persistence. Choose itineraries that venture into aurora zones during peak months. Ask the crew to let you know if sightings are possible, and be willing to get up at odd hours. If you're lucky enough to witness it, it's the kind of experience that stays with you forever. A reminder that the ocean holds beauty as well as risk. And with that, we've gone from the most urgent dangers at sea to one of its rarest and most beautiful rewards. All right, we've covered hurricanes, rogue waves, medical emergencies, and even a glimpse of the northern lights. The truth is, the sea is full of surprises. Some you prepare for, some you savor. And knowing the difference can turn your trip from stressful to unforgettable. All right, we've covered hurricanes, rogue waves, medical emergencies, and even a glimpse of the northern lights. The truth is, the sea is full of surprises. Some you prepare for, some you savor. And knowing the difference can turn your trip from stressful to unforgettable.